if you see now, after creating the QED, the data still resides in this file. Once you use the drop table, the data doesn't reside. So this becomes a blank QEW file. Now you name this one as an extractor and you use this. In this file you can have multiple connections, like I can have this product, uncomment, so you can use the same table name, store into the table, and you can say drop table. Either you can use one big statement table and give both the tables, but the best practice is once you load and store it, you just drop it so that you don't load the file too much. I think I'll have to drop this table. So it loads both the tables, but both the tables are not available in this file. If you go to our training folder, so you see a product QED and a sales QED. Now why QEDs, how do they help? All these things I'll share in the training session. Basically, how can you use QEDs? It's just to avoid going back to the database every often. So we'll do that. Over here, if you want to modify your data that comes from the database, you use you can actually we'll come to the modifying first. I'll just show you how do you create probably a table box. Just you get all the fields that are loaded into the database. So if you see, this is my table that is available in the memory or in the Qlikview file. When you go to any other box or you want to create chart or a table box, I'm just trying to show simple things. You just bring in these fields that you want to display. You want the ship date, you want the unit price, you want the order count. Basically, you got the table. This is the plain Jane table. You want aggregation, you might have to pick on a chart. In chart, there are different kinds of charts. For us, we would need a straight table. So you give the product ID, then you give an expression, some quantity, or if you don't remember the field name, if you don't want to type in, you can actually make your statements from here. So you want to do a sum from table sales order. The field you want to pick is the order quantity, and you do a paste. So the expression is generated automatically. So you say OK. Then you have all the modifications that you want, the sorting orders, the visualization, and you click. So this you get the sum aggregation based on product. So this is the layer. And you can convert this to a chart. So you copy paste it. There is the option flexibility for developer to copy paste or clone this object. Once you have done it, you want to switch to a bar graph. So you get this. You can change the style. You can create basically a scroll. So when the user clicks on this, he'll scroll it. You want the descending, you just do a, so this becomes of a descending chart. This is the layering. Now you want to aggregate these things at a expression level. I'm loading the data from QED into a temp table first. From temp table, I'll just load data star all data, but I'll pick my order quantity into unit price. I just need this comma as sales value. This is basically my expression. This is the calculation for my sale value. I'll have to multiply 2 fields to get the sales value. Now, what is this resident load? Yeah, I was coming to that. There are different kinds of loading statements in Qlikview. So one thing you saw is from the database. So let's go there. Is from, you get a from statement. It goes to the database, picks the table. Then there is another from statement which says sales order QED. Again, you can have, instead of this QED, you can have Excel file or any other file. If you go, a resident is, now you have loaded this table into this file. Now you don't want to again load this data to do this calculation from the file. Instead of doing, you can use the same data that is already loaded into the memory using the resident load. It says resident, the sales order temp. The order temp is already available in the memory. So you refer to the table which is there. If I'm right to compare it, it's basically in SQL you create view tables, right? While doing scripting, just temp tables you create so that you can do some aggregation on it. It's the same kind of a thing. Instead of connecting to the database or the file for the second time, you use the same table that is already loaded. Now I can have multiple sales detail. I can just pick any particular. I can just pick a product ID. Or product ID and due date.
So it will add a new rows to the existing file.
No, it will create a separate table. You see, I am creating a totally different table. So I'll just rename this as, I will connect this as new date, just to demonstrate. Resident sales order temp. This is basically creating 2 new tables. One is a sales order, another is a sales detail.
Okay.
And I've named this one will become sales order temp. What my logic was to create the table separately with the aggregation and drop this table. I'll tell you what will happen.
Yeah.
So you drop this sales order temp completely. So if you see, I'm using the star. It loads all these fields plus another field which will add to these many fields. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it will make a 11th field, which is the multiplication of 2 fields.
Okay.
If I have both the tables, if I have both the tables in memory, it is going to create synthetic keys. I don't need 2 tables, right? So I can drop off the first temp table. So I drop the temp table. I create this. Okay, you save, you reload. Okay, my drop statement was much before.
Yeah, before creating temp table.
I'll have to use this over here. Yeah, exactly. Right, so I drop. Sorry. So if you look at the background, my table with the 10 fields on the 11th field is called sales values created, plus a new table is created with just the renaming. So it's basically using the temp table again and again instead of going back to the file and reloading it. And resident load is even more faster because the data is already available in the memory. You don't spend much time. There is something. Okay. Now creating variables has two statements. I mean, I think is this okay with the load statements? Maybe in detail we can do it in the training session.
I have a question on the residence load.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
How big the table can be in memory? What is the recommendation? I mean, if it has a million rows, can we still have a residence load?
Yeah. There's no restriction for anything. So then, I told you, your database directly depends, the capability directly depends on the RAM of your machine that you're using. So your machine can handle 1 million, 10 million, or 200 million rows. You can load the data into the memory, and there's no restriction for this resident load.
Okay, no, I'm talking particularly on the residence load, because if one table is loaded with, say, 10 million rows, and you are trying to access that multiple times in your script to load or do some aggregation after that. So it's going to take more memory. It's going to take more memory, right?
No, that is why we are using the resident load, because the data is already in the memory. We don't want to bring in the new data. So we use that same data to aggregate. That's why it is faster and it is better. And there is no restriction for it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why once the data is there in the memory, you use the same data that is available in the memory.
Okay.
And that is one of the reasons that we are dropping off the first table, so that we don't have two different tables with occupying space. So once you drop off the table immediately, the space becomes free. So it's basically programming techniques. We'll work on that. For creating variables in Qlikview, there are two statements. One is the set, and one is the second one is the let. I think it's the global definitions for this. Set is basically plain Jane set of what is A. You say 1 plus 2 . Okay, sorry, I didn't give any variable name itself. Value 1. So I set value 1 is equal to 1 plus 2. And there is a let statement, value 2 is equal to 1 plus 2. Any guesses what will the value 1 be in my variable? Hello? Any guesses what is the result gonna be for value 1 and value 2? Okay, just reload and check. All the variables, whatever variables you use in script are available over here in the variable overview. So this is what happens. The value 1 is 1 plus 2 and the value 2 is 3. So that's basically the difference between set and let. So let evaluates the expression, whatever value you give. If you give 1 plus 2, it evaluates it. And set is basically plain Jane expression setting, so 1 plus 2. You want to refer this in your script. Set is, suppose you don't want this 1 plus 2. Yeah, now what happens is, like you want to set a value, you don't want it to be evaluated. You write an expression, okay, where like you want to use this 1 plus 2 in your expression, not the output of the 1 plus 2. Maybe you are using the set, you are using the variable to multiply, or you want to add 1 plus 2 separately. It has various, okay, now to explain it better, what happens is, you have your charts. In the charts you set variables, okay. maybe you're using a variable which says max of date. So you have set this variable. You want this to be evaluated only at the place that you use it. So in a chart, properties, or maybe text box. You don't want this to be evaluated over there, and you just want it to be visible over here as max state. So you basically set it to max state. Now if I do the same thing to max state, let max of date, maybe shift it.
So Qlikview is not a case sensitive?
No. So it's not showing anything because it's basically evaluating it. Max of. I mean, this is the concept. It's used in basically charts to evaluate on the spot, and sometimes you don't want it to be evaluated, so you set the expression. I'll come back with a better example. Right now I'm not ready with the example for this.
No problem.
So, yeah. Set is like you set the value and you don't evaluate it. This is better used in the charts. You know what happens is when you have dimensions in your pivot chart. So you create a pivot chart, you have dimensions, and you want to evaluate a particular expression on that particular whatever dimension it is, and you don't want it to be a pre-calculated one. So that is when you set the value to that, and you make sure it calculates at that point with whatever dimension it has. So I have the example. Maybe I'll take time to search it. So maybe in training I'll cover that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about connecting and like loading data, storing data. Any other thing that you think? What I'll do is I'll just pick one demo. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
In fact, I don't know, it's the right forum to ask you this question. As I told you, just 2 weeks back I just downloaded this Qlikview and started trying out something. But there are so strange things I'm coming into. I don't know whether it is because of my lack of knowledge or whether the problem with the product itself. For example, I have created a table, and in the table I have a column where I have to indicate a traffic light gauge.
Okay.
And this traffic light, based on the value, whatever I try to set, red, yellow, green, it doesn't change. It always shows black.
Okay. Well, maybe something that we like, it's basically how you have designed it. So you say if your sales are this, you want a traffic light gauge on next to it, right?
Correct. Same value, based upon same value, I can give a range. Anything more than 11,000, for example, 10,000, something like that.
So you pick. So instead of the sales, instead of text, you over here, if you want both the text and the, you want both, you have to create two expressions.
Right, I have done that.
And change this to a LED gauge settings. Yeah. Over here you have the minimum and the 0.
Yeah.
So, okay, no, this is the LED gauge, sorry. Traffic light gauge. So you have the segment 1, segment 2. Now, based on what values we have, we'll just